This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
موضوعان لا ثالث لهما أزمة رئاسة لبنان ومجازر الإسرائيليين في غزة.
The Lebanese presidential crisis and the Israeli massacres in the Gaza Strip were the focus of discussion at both the official and consultative levels in the Arab foreign ministers meeting underway in Cairo. While the Gaza file enjoys an Arab consensus to a certain extent, the Lebanese crisis continues to overshadow the political arena ahead of the upcoming Arab summit in Damascus. From Cairo, Ahmed al-Kilani.
Intensive talks are underway in Cairo, where the Arab foreign ministers are going through the complicated Lebanese file in a desperate attempt to resolve its political crisis ahead of the Arab summit scheduled to take place in Damascus at the end of the month. Yesterday, the situation in the Gaza Strip was the focus of discussion by the Arab ministers in their consultative meeting. Today, the ministers held their official meeting, which includes a discussion of the Lebanese file.
The meeting turned into an exceptional session to discuss the situation in the occupied territories.
In today's meeting, the issue of peace talks with the Israelis came up, stirring controversy in the light of ongoing Israeli raids and killings in the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian foreign minister linked the negotiations with the Israelis to the developments on the ground.
We can't continue the negotiations if we can't change the situation on the ground. We must improve the situation on the ground and protect our Palestinian people in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip.
Meanwhile, the Secretary General for the Arab League, Amr Moussa, strongly dismissed the reports that they may postpone the upcoming Arab summit in Damascus if no breakthrough in the Lebanese crisis is reached.
The summit will occur at the same time and place, nothing more or less. It's been already agreed on.
Syria, which announced it will invite Lebanon to attend the Arab summit but didn't specify who will represent Beirut, expressed confidence that the level of Arab representations in the summit will be very high.
I want to assure you that the level of Arab representations in the Damascus summit will be higher than in previous Arab summits.
This Syrian confidence, which comes at a time when the Arabs are facing many crises, is in itself an accomplishment which may help the participants find solutions to their problems. Ahmed al-Kalani, Dubai TV, Cairo.
In another development, the U.S. Navy has replaced 2 ships deployed off the coast of Lebanon last week to send a political signal to powers in the region. The cruiser USS Philippine Sea and the destroyer USS Ross replaced the destroyer USS Cole and a refueling ship over the past 24 hours. In addition, another refueling ship remained in its place, which means that the United States has a total of 3 naval ships in the region.
سفن حربية في المنطقة.
In today's top story, the Inner Security Cabinet has ordered the Israel Defense Forces to continue their operations in Gaza until the rocket fire into Israel is stopped. The order came at an unusually long session of the Inner Cabinet today, convened for the first time in some 2 months. The Cabinet decided that the IDF will act continuously to end the rocket fire and other terror attacks from Gaza, striking rocket launchers as well as production and storage facilities and Hamas institutions in Gaza. Prime Minister Olmert, Defense Minister Barak and Foreign Minister Livni will have the authority to approve the targets for attack. But at the same time, Israel will promote peace negotiations with the Palestinian Authority. The Inner Cabinet also resolved to prevent a humanitarian crisis in Gaza and to take further steps to better protect Israeli civilians who are within Palestinian rocket range.
Even as the Israeli Security Cabinet was meeting, Palestinian terrorists today fired 2 Grad-type Katyusha rockets at the southern city of Ashkelon. There were no reports of injuries or damage caused by the missiles. 3 Qassam rockets fired from the Gaza Strip today landed in the western Negev. The rockets hit open areas, causing no damage or casualties.
Also making headlines today, visiting U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice said this afternoon that Israel and the Palestinians have agreed to resume peace talks. She did not give a time frame for the resumption of negotiations.
Hello.
Rice was speaking to the press following a meeting with Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni.
I am pleased that the parties have said that they're going to resume negotiations. They intend to do that, and that contacts will begin between them to bring that about. To be very clear, Annapolis, of course, was the point at which we recognized, and by the way, you only have to look at the history of any negotiation in this region to see that rejectionists have tried from time to time, actually almost every time, to derail, to hold hostage the negotiations. And so we have to find a way to make these negotiations robust. And now one point that I have made to both sides is that one thing that will make these negotiations more robust is more robust activity on the other two pillars of Annapolis. We do need to have improvements on the ground. We do need to have the parties meeting their roadmap obligations. That's why General Fraser is going to hold the trilateral. It's why it's important that everybody look what they can do to support the Tony Blair mission.
There's a need to understand that when we are talking about two states for two peoples living side by side in peace and security, there's a need, of course, there's the peace negotiations and the peace talks that need to be continued, and Israel, of course, is willing to do so. And we believe that it is important to continue to do so because we don't want to give the keys for our future in the hands of Hamas. But on the other side, there's a better understanding now that the path toward the Palestinian states, which includes Gaza Strip, need to give an answer to the situation on the ground in Gaza Strip. We cannot afford a terror state in Gaza. We cannot afford a failed state as part of the future Palestinian state or an extreme Islamic terrorist state as Gaza seems to be right now.
Secretary Rice held talks earlier in the day with Defense Minister Ehud Barak. Barak told the Secretary that Israel is determined to put a stop to the rocket fire. He said the government is committed to the safety of its citizens and that even though it is not rushing toward a wide-scale ground operation in Gaza, it will not be deterred from such action. Last night, Rice held talks for 2.5 hours with Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. The meeting was private with no aides present.
قال الرئيس الأمريكي جورج بوش إنه لا يزال متفائلا بشأن توصل الفلسطينيين.
The U.S. President George W. Bush expressed optimism that the Israelis and the Palestinians will reach a peace agreement before the end of his term. During a meeting with the Jordanian monarch, King Abdullah bin Hussein, Bush said there's still enough time for both sides to reach a final peace agreement in the Mideast region. In addition, Bush urged the Palestinians and the Israelis to give the peace process the momentum needed to ensure the success of the U.S.-sponsored Annapolis Peace Conference.
Meanwhile, the head of the Egyptian People's Assembly, Dr. Ahmed Fatih Surur, said that the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, John Negroponte, expressed deep regret and sorrow over the Israeli massacre in the Gaza Strip. Surur, who is currently on tour in Washington, leading a parliamentary delegation that represents all political parties in the Shura Council and the People's Assembly, confirmed that the U.S. administration expressed distress over this situation in Gaza and it's seeking to find a peaceful solution. He added that the U.S. doesn't condone what is going on in Gaza and will do something to end the aggression.
Dr. Fathi Surur started his U.S. tour by meeting with the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State John Negroponte. Both leaders stressed the importance of the U.S.-Egyptian relations and called for more cooperation in all areas, which may reflect positively on the regional and international issues, including the Mideast peace process.
تحدثنا عن الأوضاع في غزة وضرورة العمل سريعا.
We discussed the situation in Gaza. We must work quickly to stop the Israeli massacre in Gaza. The man shared with me these feelings. They feel bothered and distressed and said that they are seeking to find an exit to the crisis, which will help promote peace in the region and help create a Palestinian state.
During a speech at George Washington University, Dr. Fathi Surur discussed the importance and depth of the strategic relationship between the U.S. and Egypt. In addition, Surur said that the comprehensive reform process underway in Egypt is an Egyptian priority. He further added that the democratic transformation in the country has led to important administrative reforms, which guarantee civil and political freedoms and independence of the legal system, as well as guarantee human rights. Surur also discussed the economic reforms that have taken place over the course of years in the country. During a press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, Surur answered questions from journalists regarding the democratic changes in Egypt and other regional issues.
What happened against the population of Gaza is wrong.
Surur confirmed that his country strongly condemns the Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip and the massacres against the Palestinian people. By the same token, Surur urged Hamas to stop its attacks, which will help prepare the general mood for peace in the region.
This assistance is not a kind of charity.
As far as the U.S. aid to Egypt is concerned, Dr. Fathi Surur said Egypt values the assistance but doesn't think of it as part of a charity. Surur further said that the aid comes in the context of a cooperation agreement between the U.S. and Egypt, which intends to help both sides achieve their mutual objectives. He confirmed that Egypt will not accept any conditional aid that violates its sovereignty. Meanwhile, Dr. Mustafa Al-Fiqhi, the head of the Foreign Relations Committee in the Egyptian People's Assembly, talked about his country's efforts in the peace process. He said that Egypt is affected the most by the ongoing violence and the instability of the region. In addition, Al-Fiqhi said Egypt will not accept any division of the Palestinian plight between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Furthermore, Al-Fiqhi said that what is going on in the Gaza Strip is an attack on Egyptian national security. Meanwhile, Dr. Mohammed Kamal, a member of the Egyptian Shura Council, said that the democratic transformation in Egypt is an ongoing process that may take years to complete. The U.S.-Egyptian relations have several implications at the bilateral, regional, and international levels. This requires both sides to continue cooperating in all areas and at all levels, including at the official and the trade levels. This visit by the Egyptian Parliament to the U.S. Congress shows the importance of the cooperation between the two countries at both the official and public levels.
The
preparations continue for the upcoming parliamentary elections in Iran. Meanwhile, debate has increased between the conservative political parties, which have divided among themselves between conservatives and reformers.
These parties have not yet been able to agree on one list due to the differences in their political and economic views.
Conservatives reaffirm that they will be following in the steps of the founder of the Islamic Republic. In defending the continuation of the revolution's slogans, they say that they are ready. These words continue to be repeated, however now they have different interpretations. Some people see diplomacy as the way for achieving the goals of the revolution, while others insist that the language of force will rule in the era of might. After 3 decades have passed since the creation of the Islamic Republic, the conservatives have become divided into neoconservatives, traditionalists, moderates, and reformers. After the criticisms had been directed at the opposition reformers by the conservative wing, the accusations are now being directed at one another. This is what has been exposed during the preparations for the parliamentary elections.
They are conservatives, and so are we. However, the difference lies in how to implement our understandings within the framework of defending our national rights and the Islamic Republic regime. These differences will lead to improvement and progress.
The main difference is between those who support the current government's practices and those who do not support them. The most distinguished conservative list, which is headed by Prime Minister Holam Rida Hadid Ado, who brings together the most important conservative parties, gives its clear support to the government. Meanwhile, some other conservative parties disapprove of the Ahmadinejad government's economic practices. That's not all. Hardline speeches have also been met with strong rejection.
We must rely on wisdom with regards to political issues and avoid creating divisions and making hardline speeches. We noticed in the past that the extremist methods were used both domestically and internationally. We hope that the opinions will lean towards moderation.
The Constitutional Enforcement Council did not reject the qualification of the conservative candidates at the onset, in contrast to what happened with the reformers. However, the conservatives have not yet agreed on a single list that brings together all their different lists. This indicates a lack of accord, which may serve the interests of the reformist wing during the parliamentary elections. The conservatives were united during the term of the reformist government. However, they have divided under the term of the current conservative government. The difference indicates that new political lines have begun to appear in the Iranian political arena. These lines have one slogan: learn a lesson from the past. Rahim Rayal, Al Jazeera, Tehran.
أكد المتحدث باسم الخارجية الصينية تشينغ جانغ ضرورة اعتماد الحل الدبلوماسي.
The spokesman for the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Qing Zhang, reiterated the need to relying on a diplomatic solution to the ongoing crisis regarding the Iranian nuclear file. Zhang called on all concerned parties to resume dialogue with Tehran as soon as possible. He said that the new sanctions imposed by the UN Security Council on Iran for its nuclear file did not impact the current trade cooperation between Peking and Tehran. The Chinese official added that commercial trade between the two countries is not affected by UN Security Council resolutions.
وللمزيد من النقاش والضوء على هذا الموضوع ينضم إلينا في الاستوديو السيد ما شاء الله.
To discuss further and shed light on this issue, we have with us in the studio Mr. Mashallah Shamsul Waddin, the advisor to the Center for Middle East Studies. Welcome, Mr. Mashallah Shamsul Waddin. The UN Security Council resolution was approved and allowed for the expansion of sanctions on Iran. The Iranian position considers the resolution as unimportant. How do you read this position?
يعني أنا أعتقد أولاً أنه قرار مجلس الأمن ذو أهمية كبيرة.
First, I think the resolution by the Security Council is very important. However, the official position must be what was said by Husseini, that is unimportant to them from a legal perspective. From a practical perspective, it will have an impact. In having a comprehensive reading of this issue, I think that the two sides, the United States and Iran, have formed wrong impressions of one another. With regards to the US, it has formed the impression that every time sanctions on Iran are increased, Iran will lean towards making more compromises and suspend uranium enrichment activities. Having said that, Washington is ignoring the common interests between it and Iran through negotiations, which took place between Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency. These fruitful negotiations led Mr. Mohammad al-Baradei to admit to the peaceful nature of the Iranian nuclear program. This is the wrong impression. The other wrong impression is that Iran relies absolutely on the IAEA while ignoring the common interests between the IAEA and the countries that control it. And if it does not deviate from negotiations with these controlling countries, at the end, it will succeed.
Do you think that there is an equation, U.S. insistence on renewing the sanctions and Iranian insistence on cooperating with the IAEA? What is the result of this equation?
Regrettably, I think it will lead to a confrontation in the end. That is, unless both sides drop these wrong impressions so that they can form new impressions, which is direct negotiations with one another.
إذن النفق
The tunnel looks very dark, which means there are no solutions on the horizon. Mr. President, frankly, do you see a solution in the near future?
بالنسبة لنا كفريق 14 أذار ما راح نترك البلد، نحن عم نمارس هلا المقاومة السياسية.
Certainly, we in the March 14th coalition will not leave the country. We are engaging in a political resistance. What we are doing is political resistance, which means we are working in conformity with the constitution and the legal system. Having said that, certain parties are trying to carry out a coup d'etat against the constitution and the tradition. From here, we will continue to engage in a political resistance. Through this political resistance, we will assess the situation in the near future to make sure that certain practical measures are being taken on the ground as last resort, and if hope dissipated, to reach a political solution, we will meet with our presidential candidate, General Sulaiman, and discuss the situation and the next move we need to take.
بعد مرة بقول لك نحن بمعرض المقاومة السياسية للحفاظ درع للحفاظ.
Once again, we are engaged in a political resistance. Through this political resistance, we want to protect the Syrian institutions on one side and maintain the integrity of the democratic parliamentary system in Lebanon. We're trying to defend the Lebanese democratic system against a forceful campaigning which is clearly being directed by a foreign remote control. In fact, part of the campaign is definitely connected to a foreign axis of power which is posing a threat to the sovereignty and future of Lebanon. It's also putting the Lebanese identity under scrutiny, and it's also undermining the role of Lebanon in the Arab world and around the globe. Some are trying to imprison us in a strategic sphere that is linked to certain strategic powers, which contradict with our Lebanese tradition and the role of the mission of Lebanon.
استراتيجي معين، محور استراتيجي معين اللي هو يتناقض مع تقاليدنا اللبنانية.
Isn't there an American remote control that is moving the ruling majority, or an American agenda? It's clear in the region there's an American project, and the project against America, represented by Iran or Syria or Hamas or Hezbollah.
At least myself and many of my friends do not take orders from anyone.
No, but you're going along with the American project in the region.
We are not going along with any project. We are going along with a project called Sovereignty, Freedom, and Independence. This is our project. Anyone who helps us realize this project is welcome. General Aoun went to the United States so that he could make Syria accountable and get the U.S. Congress make Syria accountable. Was he betraying his country? He was trying to get American support in order to achieve sovereignty and independence.
But they betrayed Michel Aoun when he came back. The domestic fronts are his allies today.
Now they understand his motive. When we went to the United Nations, to the UN Security Council, and we requested that Resolution 1555 be implemented, which resulted in the withdrawal of the Syrian army from Lebanon, when we went to the Security Council, there is America, France, Russia, and other powers. When these countries supported us, America, England, France, and other countries like Qatar, I can't remember them all of them agreed to support Lebanon to liberate its land. Should we have said no to the Americans? It's not allowed. But the Americans are not sending us weapons. They are not asking whether or not I will accept Michel Sulaiman. For your information, the Americans were not enthusiastic about General Michel Sulaiman. They were not enthusiastic. We imposed this situation on everyone when we accepted him. People were puzzled at how we could accept him because he was suggested by some opposition parties. So we welcome anyone who helps us. But we will not forget the long period of time when no one criticized the Americans when they maintained the Syrian-Israeli security understanding. Everything of the so-called Kissinger's project when Syria was in Lebanon with the cover of America and Israel. No one used to criticize America. Why today people are criticizing America when the United States in the UN Security Council, without direct intervention, is supporting Lebanon? What is America imposing on Walid Jumblat, Samir Ja'ja, Amin Gemayel, or Saad al-Hariri? How can America impose solutions on us if we are not convinced of them? Is America sitting with us at the discussion table and imposing on me and other people what we should talk about in our dialogue?
A world away from the White House and a world apart. Senator Barack Obama's roots in Kenya give him a background no other U.S. presidential hopefuls ever had. And as he and Hillary Clinton continue to battle it out for the Democratic nomination, there's one family fan who now has the chance to turn on, tune in, and maybe watch history being made. John Cookson went to meet her and the rest of the clan.
It's hard to imagine a world quite as far removed from the glitz and razzmatazz of a US presidential campaign. But this is the village of Nyangoma Kogelo in the heart of Western Kenya, where the Obama family has its humble African roots. Senator Obama's step-grandmother, she's known by everyone around here as Mama Sarah, was having her first ever television set delivered when we arrived. Well-wishers thought she ought to get one so she could watch her favourite grandson on the road that might just lead all the way to the White House. At 86, Mama Sarah told me she'd be watching every step.
I feel good about it. If it is his job to have, it's a good thing. I'm happy for him and will do all I can to make it happen.
Senator Obama has been to Kenya 3 times and has visited the grave of his late father, who was born and raised here. His grandfather is also buried in the same plot close to the house. The family were upset by recent controversy surrounding a photograph of Senator Obama wearing a turban taken during a visit to Kenya in 2006. Although Barack Obama is Christian, the fact he wore clothes associated with the Muslim faith should not be something to be ashamed of, they say.
You have bad people in Christianity, you have bad people in Islam. That is the way life is. That is what humans are about. But to stigmatize a whole faith is very, very unfortunate. So I think in that respect, it's very, very problematic that this issue keeps being brought up, and it's being brought up in a way that, you know, Barack is having to defend the fact that he's not a Muslim.
The people around here are very proud of their Obama connection, a little bit like the Irish are in respect to the Kennedy clan.
Well, we feel so happy.
Why do you feel happy?
Because our tribe won.
Streets and schools have been named after him, and the Stars and Stripes are for the man they regard as the local who made good. Meanwhile, Mama Sarah insists if Barack makes it to the White House, it will not change her life. She says she could never swap Washington for a humble backyard. John Cookson, Al Jazeera, in Nyangoma Kogelo, Western Kenya.
Bye.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jamal Dajani. Is it possible to make television that matters? I believe it is. If I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to produce more than 1,400 episodes of Mosaic. You would think it gets easier to create this kind of programming. It doesn't. It gets harder each year to cover our costs and keep this kind of program on the air. Be a part of something important. Call in your donation for Mosaic at 1-866-485-8848 or go online at linktv.org. I know you understand how important Mosaic is in offering Americans a real sense of what's happening in the Middle East. Broadcasters you wouldn't normally be able to see from Iraq to Israel are translated and made accessible to you every weekday. If you are a Mosaic junkie, just think how different your perspective would be if you had never seen this show. Call 1-866-485-8848 or go online at linktv.org to make a donation. I'm confident that with your support, we'll produce another 1,400 episodes of Mosaic in the years to come. From the entire Mosaic team, thank you.
When you support Link TV, we have dozens of ways to thank you. Become a sustaining supporter to make automatic contributions in any amount that works for you. Just have your credit card ready to set them up. Make it $20 or more, and we'll thank you with the latest in Link TV gear, this convenient duffel bag. Here's another way to spread the word. Send these beautiful cards to friends who would love Link TV. We'll mail them to you in thanks for a $50 tax-deductible contribution today. When you double that to $100, we'll also send you the new Link TV travel mug. Show off your support for independent media like Mosaic over a hot beverage. Give us a call or go online. You can also mail a check. The address is P.O. Box 2008, San Francisco, California, 94126. Include a note about the gifts you prefer, or put simply, no gifts please. That way 100% of your contribution goes directly to what you value most, the programs here on Link TV.
This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.